10, 9.
You want answers? I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by the technician, Chris Aceto, on this February 4th, 2019 evening. And Chris, we are in the month of February. I can't believe it. I know I say this every single month, but it just, January just flew by like crazy.
A week flies by.
I know.
A day flies by.
Crazy.
How busy when you're at your desk, Dave? Let's say you're sitting at your desk and you're just full-blown busy. And doesn't it seem like 3 hours can go by in like
3 seconds.
Like 30 minutes?
3 seconds. Because I'm doing like 14 things at one time. I'm like checking
Multitasking.
PayPal. I'm answering a question via email. I'm answering WhatsApp, text messages, doing a species product review. It's like 14, and then nothing gets done because I forget where I left off with everything. I got to start over.
Of course.
Or the computer gets reset, or my son pulls, shuts the computer screen or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I'm like, what did I just do? I had 14 things open at the same time I was doing. How could you shut the computer on me,
Well, you pulled the plug right out of the wall? Or?
No, well, the laptop doesn't go. But, he'll just, he'll shut the screen and things will get erased. I don't know what'll happen. And then I'm, thinking, what am I doing? I'm yelling at my son.
Yeah, you're yelling
for being
at the
3 years
3-year-old.
old. He's 3 years old.
You should know by now. When I'm at this desk,
Yeah.
you be quiet.
Yeah, he's not going to.
I'm paying for your college.
My son is the kind of kid, if my daughter's sleeping and we're like, Logan, quiet because you're going to wake up Arya, he'll yell louder purposely.
Yep.
So you can't even tell him that because if you do that, he will yell louder, just purposely do the opposite. So you're in England. What are you doing over there? Tell us. Everyone wants to know. They heard the rumors that Rhoden and Aceto are on the road.
I'm trying to get a visa to Kuwait, and they won't let me.
I heard that you were doing a two-man show. Like Kai was doing his one-man show on tour. You're like you and Rhoden are doing like a Broadway,
No, it's a three-man. It's me.
Oh, three. That's right.
Yep.
Psycho is with you, right?
It's the black. I called Psycho. I said, Chris, I have a new nickname for you. You are like Black Panther. You are the Black Francois. Did I say that last week? The Black Francois?
I don't think so.
Because someone I know is training with Mike right now, and it's basic compound movements, heavy to failure. Basic compound movements, heavy to failure. I said, that's what. I couldn't remember Chris Lewis's name. I said, Black Panther, Black Francois. He's like Black Francois.
You know what the funny thing is, and we didn't rehearse this by any means. I, out of nowhere, decided, you know what? A good guest to be on the TV show would be Mike Francois. And I texted him on Friday, and I got him on this coming Wednesday, 1 o'clock. How's that for thinking alike?
We can call him the White Panther then.
We can call him the White... But the White Rhino is taken by Stan Efferding, so yeah, I guess the White Panther would be better, yeah. I'm into all these albino animals anyway, so that's great.
Yeah. Well, that Mike will be a great guest because he's very knowledgeable and very methodical.
I've had him on before, but I don't know if I think I had him on the radio, so this is... it is... I think I have someone on, and I look back, and it's like 5, 6, 7 years, so... I know I went over a lot of stuff with him, but I think it was a radio interview. So, a lot of people don't know the whole story. So we'll go through the whole thing with the... You
can ask Mike. I told someone today, actually. I told the Black Panther. I told Chris Lewis, the Black Francois. I said, you know what? I said, two people... Mike would go through training partners like people go through, Bic razors.
Oh, no one wanted to train with him?
Well, they of course they did. And then they would, after day 2, they'd be like hospitalized. They just couldn't make it back. So 2 people survived.
Right.
And those 2 people grew like weeds. And I you know how much they grew like weeds? I remember their names. Eric was one and Earl was the other. You can ask Mike, Eric and Earl.
Right.
Say Chris said Eric and Earl were the only survivors, like that TV show Survivor.
Yeah.
They were the only 2 that could consistently make it through, and they got huge. In fact, Eric, I forgot his last name. He won the Ohio because I prepped him for it. and I think he was 21. He won it, or 21, and I mean, in my mind, he was like not as good, but he was like okay, there's Jay, there's this guy, there's Eric, in terms of people who could be really good in the future. I think maybe when Mike got sick, he didn't continue on.
Was Mike as brutal as Milos and his giant sets? I heard even Dexter Jackson couldn't stick with couldn't keep training with Milos.
Mike didn't need the giant sets because it was all done in one. I mean, if you could survive one set, there's no way you're making it to the
right.
There's no pacing yourself for the second exercise.
I've trained. I don't like really have time. I shouldn't say I don't like it. I do like it, but I don't have time to really be training people in the gym. But every once in a while, someone talks me into it, and they'll come down, and I'll train them for one session, and they always go home in a lot of pain. And the funny thing is, I never really train them with a lot of. I don't do a lot of volume anyway. But usually, when I train someone, since it's only a one-time type thing, I'm really more focused on form and how they're the range of motion and their pay and how the cadence of the exercise. And so I really don't push crazy weight because I want to make sure that they're not cheating and that they're getting the form down. And invariably, the next day I always get a call that they're in agony and that they can't walk and that they're crippled. And I'm like, really? It wasn't a hard workout. But you know what? When you don't do things correctly, believe me, you feel it the next day because it's the muscle feels it, and that's the key. If you can get someone sore in the right muscles the day after a workout, then they were never training that body part correctly to begin with.
Yeah, they never caused muscle recruitment. Did you save that text message I got from Mr. Olympia, Samir Banut?
Oh, that was funny. That was funny. Really funny.
He said,
read it.
He said, Chris, why do most of the people these days look so shitty? Because he had sent me a picture of his front double bicep, and it's just flawless, like the fullness and the separation and
right.
The clean line. So he said, why do most people look so shitty these days? I said, because this is right off the top of my head at 3 a.m. I said, because they resort to drugs and excessive amounts of food first, social media second, training comes third.
I bet he loved that. Yeah, he loved it.
Oh, yeah. He said, smiley faces.
The fact that Samir, at, what is he, 60-something years old, is sitting around worried about, the current state of bodybuilding at 3 a.m. is even funnier.
Well, even more bizarre. I just decided, you know what? I think I'll text, because it was if it's 3 of my time, it's midnight in LA time. And I figure, let me text Samir just to keep in touch.
And midnight in LA is late because everyone goes to bed early there because they all get up at 6 in the morning there.
I said, Samir, what did you train today? Right, 2 seconds later, I trained back.
I love that he still trains he's and in his mind he's still thinking comeback. He's like, if I could just get the salt right, and if I if this little injury heals up on me, I should be able to get back to the to deadlifts again. And I love it. It's great. I did an Iron Rage with Lee Priest this past week. I don't know if you saw it. It was pretty funny. It was about the Ben Weider. They got this new Ben Weider Natural IFBB Pro show. Did we talk about it last week? I don't remember.
No, the Natural Pro. No.
Okay, yeah. There's a Natural Pro show they're holding. I don't know what the drug testing procedures are going to be or whatever, but my whole thing is I think it's a good idea, obviously, that they're having more options, in the IFBB. But let's face it, unless it's like a lifetime natural show, which it won't be. It's really not of any benefit. They're probably just going to test you the day of the show. To be a real natural show that's going to be accepted by the Olympics, because that's what Ben Weider's dream was anyway, right? You have to do out of competition testing. That means they have to knock on your door, 18 weeks out from the show, and and say pee in the cup. No one's doing that, right? So I said, Lee, you've been natural you've been off for a year or something like that. Why don't you just do the show? He's like, I think I almost have him convinced. So, do you think that Lee said he did compete naturally one year? A lot of people didn't know it because he had a bet with. Who do you
I know what year it was.
It was one of the Ironmans he did naturally.
No, didn't he do the Olympia natural one year?
He might have, but he did the Ironman naturally too one year.
Oh, I thought he did the Olympia, and he was just he was like big. He was just like soft in the lower body.
Yeah, he said he wasn't as hard as he was, but he did do it. He said, and he said I was the same size. I just wasn't as hard. He said, and I probably could have been harder if I had just dieted a little, a little tough.
You know what? I mean, who's to say? I mean, I
don't think Lee really resorted to a lot of drugs in his competition. He says he didn't, and he doesn't lie about anything else. So I don't really know why he would lie about that. So I just thought that was pretty funny. But it's great. It's going to be held up in Canada, and I'm interested to see who's going to do it. Will it be guys because they're having an amateur show too, an amateur natural show that if you win that, then you can qualify and you can become a pro. But any guy, I guess, can do it. Any pro can do it. You just have to be able to pass the drug test.
What organization is it?
It's It's the regular organization, IFBB Pro League.
Okay.
It's going to be like a regular show. Like maybe Sean can do it. SHAWN RHODEN used to be natural, right? He was a good natural bodybuilder too.
Used to be.
He was a great natural bodybuilder.
Yeah. No, he was. I mean, a lot of people were.
Maybe Kyle drop down, do some natural competing. I imagine we'll probably see some classic physique guys, even though most of them aren't natural. But I think they look like they might be natural, some of these guys. But I'm interested to see who's going to do it. So Lee had his own opinion. People seem to like the video. So if anyone out there wants to go see it, take a look at it. I also saw some pictures. We did a Muscle in the Morning on Cedric McMillan. That his classic pictures he takes in front of the front door of his house. With the wood paneling in the back there. He looks pretty big. He's supposedly 290. I don't know.
He is 290. He looks crazy big.
Yeah. If he can hold on to some of that size and not suck down too much, it could be a dangerous Cedric McMillan.
Yeah, totally.
So I don't know. Have you been following the whole Larry Wheels thing? I talked about it last week a little bit.
The Larry Wheels. Which thing?
So Larry Wheels, I did a video on him. I guess it was last week. It got it's almost 1 million hits. This thing about his, he was deadlifting. Remember we talked about this last week? I think we did. And the pimple popped, whatever. So I said, I think I called it Larry Wheels exploding chest, explained something like that. Yeah. So I texted him, a couple times. And I'm going back and forth. And evidently, he did the LA Fit Expo strongman amateur division there. Now, if you win the amateur, it qualifies you to do the amateur Arnold strongman. Because that's his new thing. He wants to get into strongman competitions. Now, I should have known that because on his Instagram, I had told you about this. He was living, I guess he was hanging out in Iceland for a while, training with the Mountain, the guy from the Game of Thrones, Hafthor Bjornsson. He's one of the world's strongest men. He won the Arnold last year, and so they showed him jousting with him, like the old American Gladiators joust. Yeah. And Hafthor is 6'9", 450 pounds. Larry is probably maybe 6 foot. 260 or something like that, 270. And Larry knocked him off the thing. Oh yeah, the joust thing, which I thought was pretty funny. So I guess he was helping Larry learn which is dangerous. It's it would be like Jay Cutler teaching Ronnie Coleman, how to or vice versa, whatever. You don't teach someone who has potentially the ability to beat you how to do strongman. So Larry goes and does this LA Fit Expo, and he comes in second. Okay, first strongman ever. He trained 8 weeks for it. Just brutally, the kid's just brutally strong, I saw him on his Instagram. He lifted a 370-pound Atlas stone, at 270 pounds. The guy is. Imagine lifting a rock, a round rock that's 100 pounds more than you weigh, and you never did it before, really, and taking it and putting it on a pedestal. It's crazy. Those tall guys too. Brian Shaw's 6'8". The other guy's 6'9". Hafthor. That's a big advantage because when you pick up a stone, you're at the pedestal already. You don't have to lift it over your head, So Larry evidently doesn't qualify for the Arnold Amateur. Now, if you do the Arnold Amateur Strongman and you win, they let you do the Pro the next day, the Pro Strongman, which is where all the top guys compete. Brian Shaw and Hafthor and all those guys. So I did a video making a plea that they should invite Larry Wheels to the Arnold Strongman. Come on, the guy came in second. It was his second show. In 4 more weeks, he'll be winning pro shows, pro strongman shows already. He's just learning. And so I texted Bob Lauren. I asked him. He's like, well, he didn't qualify, and I said, Bob, he's the biggest name in the whole show. It's like having Kai Green in your show. The guy has 1 million followers, in social media. He's anything you put up with Larry Wheels, everyone wants to know. I've never seen anyone with the feats of strength that this guy has. He's like another Bo. You know what he reminds me of? He's like a Bo Jackson.
Yeah, it's a good example. I mean, people love obviously strength.
But think about it.
If there's a disconnect and you don't have the body behind it, like a strong man doesn't have like the bodybuilder-like physique,
right.
And some bodybuilders who look like they're super strong and not super strong. So it's, it's a combo.
He's got it all. Not only that, he's also a power lifter. So he's powerlifting records. He's got the bodybuilding titles. He won a few titles, right?
Yeah,
and
I think so.
Yeah, no, he did. He won a couple overalls, and then he also now has this strongman under his thing. And I think he's going to be the best at strongman. I really do. I think that'll be his best sport. And he's got a great story. I sent you a story. I didn't even know the story.
The story was great.
He grew up in like the Bronx, and he was in foster homes for like up till 12 years old or something like that. And then he went looking for his mom, and I think was she on St. Thomas Island or something like that. And they didn't have schools there. I didn't know this. In St. Thomas, you can either go to public school, which is in French, which obviously Larry doesn't speak French.
Is it St. Thomas? Be careful that if you're not accurate, people are going to...
I know, I get crazy. Yeah. No, they get very... I think it's St. Thomas, right?
It was somewhere in the Caribbean. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't dare to say, because they'll say, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Here's proof. Remember, they'll say, you don't know what you're talking about the Olympia. Here's proof when you were talking about Larry Wheels. Wrong.
People love to give me... People, I'll tell you one thing. People send me corrections and explanations for things that are great, because they don't do it in a condescending way, and I always thank everyone, because you know what? I don't know some things, and I'm glad that people have the time to look these things up. All right, let's see. French Caribbean island of St. Martin. Okay, good. I'm looking it up. Make sure we're accurate. So because he couldn't go to public school, and then the private schools where they spoke English were too expensive. He had no money. His mother didn't have any money, so he didn't go to school. He basically he has no education. So he basically, they eventually, him and his mom moved back to the Bronx, and I guess he couldn't even afford weights. It's like a Cedric McMillan story. He couldn't afford weights in St. Thomas, so he was St. Martin. Excuse me. See, I'm now messing up. St. Martin. So he actually was building his own weights there out of broom handles. The old story of all the guys when they were back in the 60s and 50s. When they had no weights. Broomstick and 2 cinder blocks, right? Yeah. When he got back to the Bronx, however, obviously the gyms are more affordable there, and he started training, and he realized after like 2 weeks that he was the strongest guy in the gym. Talk about genetics, right?
Yeah, no, he's freaky in a lot of ways.
So the guy is he's a phenomenon. It's unbelievable. He's a classic. Rags to riches story. And he's one of the strongest guys out there now, I think he might be the strongest guy.
Right? Who's stronger?
Between who?
I don't know. Him and everyone else.
I don't know. I don't put it this way.
At least he's only what?
He's strong. Put it this way. He's stronger than any bodybuilder out there. So he's the strongest bodybuilder out there.
Is he stronger than the Iron Bull? The Iron Nut? That's
Stan Efferding.
What is Stan? The white
Rhino. Yeah, he's definitely stronger than him.
So it's not then the White Rhino. Then I'm going to call the White Psycho is Mike Francois. I'm not going to call Chris Lewis the Black Francois. I'm going to call Mike the White Psycho.
Okay. So, he's definitely the strongest bodybuilder. Of the strongmen, he's one of the strongest out there. Pound for pound. And then strongman, he's just coming into his own, so we don't know what he's capable of yet. But if you look at his Instagram, the guy has got some insane lifts. One of the most impressive things, and I mentioned this last week, was when he literally took 500 off of two pedestals and just walked back with it and overhead pressed it and then put it back. I couldn't believe it. I've never seen anyone do anything like that in my life. And the funny thing is, he looks like he has a good physique, you know, and he looks like a bodybuilder, but he doesn't look big. He doesn't even, his legs are good, but they're not huge, you know, and he's just got that insane, crazy strength. So anyway, I really thought it would be a good idea for the Arnold people to invite him to the Arnold amateur. It's not like I was asking him to invite him to the Strongman Pro. I said, look, give him an invite to the Arnold amateur. It'll be exciting.
But he could be invited to the pro, right?
No, but you got to qualify to be. You have to become a pro. You have to win the amateur. But the point is that invite him to the amateur there because you're going to fill your expo with more people, right? Yeah. They're always looking for events that are going to make people come into the expo. If people know that Larry Wheels is lifting, don't you think there's going to be a lot more people interested in getting into that expo on that day? You know, on Friday, whenever it is.
Right. Yeah, I would say so.
That was my that's all I meant by it, but. It is what it is. We'll see what happens. Unfortunately, he'll have to wait. But you know what? This time next year, he'll be a pro. I guarantee it. And he'll probably be competing with these top guys because he's just too strong. I would have loved to have seen Ronnie.
Pros versus pros. He would have been.
Yeah, definitely.
Pros versus pros.
I would have loved to seen Ronnie Coleman do the strongman. You know, back in his heyday. I think he would have been good at that stuff too.
Yeah, he would have. He would have because he's competitive. He likes that stuff.
But you know what? He's fast too. But he's an athlete. You know what I mean? He's got like athleticism as well because there's a lot of running involved. These guys run with, you know, they hold 1,000-pound car frame and then they run with it. You have to, no matter how big these guys are, they're athletes. You know, Brian Shaw and Hathor, they have good endurance and they have good wind because you have to. I mean, they're running up a hill with holding a car basically. You know. You'll die otherwise if you don't have that. So that's a rare blend. That's like, you know, how you see these football linemen, these offensive linemen that weigh 400 pounds, and you're like, oh, what a bunch of fat slobs. Yeah, you get them on a football field. These guys are fast and they're quick on their feet, which you would never believe a guy that big could do that. You know, back in the day when if you weighed 400 pounds, they put you on the front line, but you couldn't move. You know, you had to get around the guy, which was hard. But once you got around him, you know, he was useless. Nowadays, these guys, they move at 400 pounds, you know. Crazy.
Who are you picking for the Super Bowl, by the way?
I don't even know. I'm not even watching it. I'm boycotting it. No, I don't know. You know what? I hate the Patriots. I have to hate the Patriots because I'm from New York, right? And, you know, we have a lot of battles with them, all our New York football teams. And at the same time, you see Brady at 40 years old, and you're like, man, everyone keeps writing this guy off, and he's just a freaking... The guy's one of the most amazing athletes of all time. I mean, I know he's got a crazy regimen of working out and supplements and diet, and but he really makes us older guys like have hope. Like, look, you got to root for him almost in that sense, right?
Yeah, yeah, but he's got a guru too. He does. He's got like a little.
I'm surprised Neil Hill doesn't train him.
No, Neil is. I think he's in. I heard. Well, I'm in England. But I think he's spending some time in wherever Ramy is, Dubai.
Well, yeah, I know he's been doing that. He told me. He said he stayed at Ramy's house there.
Yeah, but I did get a reconfirmation of the story that you told on the radio the other day. So it might only be a TMZ source. I don't know. What did you say that Ramy was?
I heard he was living at the Sheikh's palace there or whatever, and the Sheikh was paying for him, whatever. And
well, the latter is. From what I understand, is true.
Oh, really? So the Sheikh is paying. Now, Neil Hill told me that's not true, but I had a good source that told me that it was true, and then Neil said no, and then you're telling me you heard it is true now. Who's your source?
I hear without even asking stuff because people just tell me stuff.
Well, because they listen to the radio show.
I can't reveal the source unless I'm subpoenaed or, you know.
No, you never reveal your source. Even if you are subpoenaed, you go to jail. We're a news organization. You have to take one for the team. I'll tell your wife, sorry, Chris has got to, he can't reveal his source. He's got to go to jail.
The jail is in the Caribbean, though.
That's right. So you're in England. You and Sean are doing seminars, right? Around
me, Sean, and
Psycho
Lewis, and we.
How many are you doing?
About 12 in 10 days of 14.
Oh wow.
Days.
That's a long time to do that.
Yeah, I got off the plane today, and we drove right to the first seminar.
Wow.
Which was an hour from Heathrow.
And your wife let you go, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, she let me go.
You'll pay for it when you get back. It's all right.
Yeah, I just anything I make will go to my kids' college fund.
College fund and the vacation fund usually too gets a little bit of that, right?
Yeah. Well, we might we'll put an ice skating rink in our backyard since you're putting a pool. Because people ask me about your pool. People actually ask me about your pool.
Yeah.
How about that?
Well, you know what? I had a big fight with them because they screwed up my spa. They didn't align the seats properly, and they made the tri-jet seats lower, and the other seats higher, and then the bench wasn't even, and so we had to have them redo it, and it was I had a whole big to do with them. I had a debate. You would have liked it. You would have liked the phone conversation. It was like a power struggle, but it's all going to work out. Not because they don't want to. They want to do it, and then they wanted me to pay them the down payment. I was supposed to pay them, I guess, a certain amount of money after the pool shell was shot. The problem was they had to redo it. So I'm like, the pool shell hasn't been shot officially. I said, It's not done. I said, so I'm not paying you until it's done. Then I'll give you your payment, and we'll move on to the next stage. And
that's predictable, because if you paid them, they may get mad at you for trying.
Who knows? They could walk. I don't know.
That's right.
I have no recourse once I give them the money, right?
Yeah.
So I've heard too many horror stories with people like that. Not that I didn't trust them, but it was only a 4-day difference. I'm like, you're shooting it on Monday. You can't wait till Monday to get your money?
Yeah.
I said, you're being ridiculous. I said, I'm the customer. I'm always right. I said, he said, well, we didn't make any mistakes. I said, so then I had to walk him through the mistakes he made. I said, well, didn't you say that the jet wasn't in the right position? He's like, well, yeah, the jet needed to be moved over 4 inches. I said, well, then you didn't do it right?
So it was wrong.
I said, so don't worry about it. I'm not holding you responsible. You made a mistake. Fix it. When you fix it, I'll pay you. I don't see what the problem is, but it's fine. Yeah, they're good guys. So it's just sometimes people's egos get in the way, and then that's what happens.
So can Logan swim? Is the question.
He can swim with the arm floats on. That's where we left off with his swimming lessons this past summer. Arm floats. He'll be just hanging around. We built this big sun shelf, so he'll be hanging on it. He just likes to play in the water. He'll learn how to swim eventually, but I found out with my son, you can't push him to do anything. But I will tell you one thing. We took him to they have this new MMA place by my house here. Some MMA guy, Nico, I forget his last name. He owns it. And I took him in there, and I wanted to see if they could, because my son is obsessed with fighting now because he watches these Avenger movies, and all he do is fight in there. And he watches them 60 times a day, the same movie. So I said, I met with the trainer there, and I'm like, he's only 3, and he's like, well, usually we do it 5 years old. I said, well, he's like, bring him down to a class Monday night. Let's see how he does. And, I said, just let him punch a few things. That's all I want to do. We want him to be able to sleep at night. So
I knew you were going to say you just want to exhaust him.
Yeah.
Sleep at night.
But he's into it. Usually he doesn't want to be bothered with anything. I'm like, you want to learn how to fight? He goes, yeah, fight. So I'm like, punch the guy. The guy holds up puts the mitts on. I'm like, Logan, hit the mitts. He's punching it. He's like, my son punches so hard that his whole body goes flying over, because he wants to hit you with as much force as he can possibly generate.
Yeah, he wants to do
throws his whole body at you basically, and so he's all excited. So Monday night we're going to go down with him and see if he can handle the group setting, with all the kids, and he'll be the
it may
youngest one.
backfire. It may backfire. You send him into some type of engaged physical activity, and he comes up. He'll come home more hyped up, and
I know.
Up an hour later than normal.
I know. I told my wife, I said, he's probably going to want to that. He'll probably become an MMA fighter, and then that'll totally backfire on us because he'll like it too much. But you know what? I think it's good for him. It gives him good discipline because right now he only does what he wants to do. So, you there, Chris?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So that was what we did today. So we'll see how he did. We'll see how he handles it on Monday. But it was fun. I get more of a kick out of doing these things than he does, I think, because I just like watching him in action.
Oh,
I want to see how he's going to respond to all the different choices he has in life. Is he going to like this one? Is he not going to like it? His new thing now is he knows all the restaurants in the area. I don't know how he learned the names of them, but we wake up in the morning. Usually we go to the bagel store on Sunday. I'm like, Logan, where do you want to go eat? My wife goes, where do you want to go eat, Logan? So I'm thinking he's going to say bagels because that's his thing, right?
Yeah.
Golden Corral. I don't know where he learned Golden Corral from,
Because he's heard
Golden
you
Corral.
say it a million
I
times.
know. He's starting to speak now.
Oh, he's
so-
in the car, and you guys Golden Corral.
Golden Corral. So we're
right?
going to go to Golden Corral this morning.
You know,
He ate
he enjoys it.
He
He
ate
likes to
chocolate
get
chip pancakes, fruit, and ice cream. That was what he ate. Can you believe I allow my kid? I just want him to be quiet at this point. I'll let him eat anything he wants at this point. Now I know why parents allow their kids to eat junk food because it keeps them quiet.
Well, it's one of my most repetitive statements in my house when my young was, shh, quiet,
Yeah.
quiet. I had a guest come over once. I was surprised. It's actually my wife's girlfriend's husband, and he get up. We have very few guests at the house, but he get up early, and they were loud. This may be like five years ago, and he said, "Quiet, everyone! I like it quiet in the morning. I loved it." I said, "See, I'm not the only-"
Yeah, exactly. Another video we did this past week that I think people find very entertaining is your little guru talk you did with me on how you prepped SHAWN RHODEN to win the Olympia. That was very popular on our site this past week. So if anyone hasn't seen it, go check it out. What else did I do this past week? Oh, I interviewed a really good kid. I think you're going to like this interview. It was very inspirational. This kid, Chris Rudin. I don't know if you've seen on TV, The Rock has this TV show called The Titan Challenge or something like that.
Never seen it.
It's like Ninja Warrior, only like more strength geared. Bodybuilding, we would like. I mean, if you're a strength person, you'd like to watch it because you got to be strong. It's not just agility type stuff. And this kid, Chris Rudin, got on the show. He was born with like one deformed arm. It's like he's got like a claw hand. Mm-hmm. And he got on the show. You know, the guy is like a super motivated guy, like just like, you know, positive energy. Like, you know, you say I can't do it, I'll try double as hard to do it. You know, and he was on the show. We got a lot of publicity. He's got a million hits. And so my friend Mike Pompkin trains at the same gym that he does in Boca Raton. There, he lives with, you know, the whole crew down there, Flex Lewis and all those guys. He lives down there, so I got him on the show. Very, very good interview. People like it. If you can't get motivated by this guy, then you know what, yeah, there's something wrong with you, because it was a great interview. And I also interviewed Paulo Almeida, who I didn't know, but he retired, done competing.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
He didn't. What was that? That was a quick.
Yeah, he just decided he doesn't want to do it anymore. He pulled in Anthony Pasquale.
He's very thick.
Yeah,
right?
no, he's got a lot of muscle, and he's only been training for like 8 years. You know that? He started at like 34. He hasn't been doing it long at all. He's like, I'm 43. I said, SHAWN RHODEN just won the Olympia at 43. He said he had enough. I don't know. You know, I respect guys like that. You know, look, I want to get out with my health. I have nothing to prove. I said, all right. He's getting into real estate like you. He wants to be a real estate mogul. Yeah.
Yeah. What's he doing? Selling real estate or?
Yeah, I guess he wants to buy and sell and do all that kind of stuff. Fix up things. You know what I'm obsessed with? I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen the Vanilla Ice project?
Vanilla, like Ice Baby.
Yeah, Ice Baby. Yeah, he flips houses in Palm Beach area, which is one of the wealthiest areas in the world, in the country rather. Palm Beach, Florida.
Yeah, sure.
So he finds these busted up, broken down mansions, like, you know, or big pieces of property, big houses, and he redoes them and he blings them out, max to the max. I mean, just puts all high end stuff in.
I haven't seen it.
You'd love it. I'm obsessed with it.
You should try to get him on the show.
He would be great. Yeah, he would be great.
I mean, if you can get Roger Stone, why can't you get Ice?
That's true.
Ice.
He's great. It's a good show because, like I said, I like to watch shows where they do all high end. I don't like to watch the shows where they do bargain fixes and all that kind of stuff. I want to see the highest end stuff, because then what happens is I get obsessed, because I'm like, oh, we got to do the garage like this. Until they show the price tag. It's a great idea until you find out that they spend $25,000 redoing their garage. You know?
Oh gosh, yeah. People spend on bathrooms.
Yeah, but the pools. I like to watch how they redo the pools, since I'm doing the pool. I'm into my pool now. You know, so it's. I just find it interesting to see all the different, you know, options in terms of pavers or versus travertine and all the different things you can do to the pool. And then, you know, they always have some crazy, like you did a lazy river on a pool today, and I was like, oh, that's nice. I'd like that. I wish I had the room for that.
Yeah.
And And so that that's what I watch. I watch home improvement shows because when you have kids, there's no way you can ever get through a whole movie because they can't sit through the whole movie. So I just watch like things I can watch in little vignettes, as my dad would say.
Next time you see my kids, you can ask me if I know how to turn the TV. I don't know how to. We have 2 remote controls, and I still do not know how to turn it on. I try to follow directions too when someone comes in. They said, push this one on, and when this button comes on and this turns green, that means you push this button. Yeah. It's like, whatever. I think I get it, and I don't.
Getting back to the your trip there to England, so I'm assuming you've seen Luke Sandow, right?
Yeah, I did see Luke Sandow, and
who you're helping for the Arnold. He looked great the other day when I saw him with Flex Lewis when he was in Boca. I guess visiting with Aaron, because he's working for Redcon. Do you think he's got a good shot at like beating some top guys, like maybe like a Bonac or something like that? Is that possible, or is that a pipe dream?
Well, if you do he's 263, and he's big, legit. Yeah. He's and he's not that tall. He's wide, and he's in good. I mean, he posed for me and Sean and Psycho today, and they were very impressed. So let's see if it, as Jose Raymond would say, translates onto stage. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes people can look not that impressive, like in the gym, but some reason you put them on the on the stage, and they look bigger than they are. And some people who are big in the gym or right in front of your eyes, they also look good on stage, but they don't look as good as they do in the gym, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let me quiz you. Who founded him?
Who what?
Who discovered Luke? Do you know? Not really discovered, but
yeah, that's your friend.
Who got him involved, like with the whole?
Is it Ron Norman?
No.
Oh, okay, then it's I know the guy you're gonna say. It's the guy. He's been around for a long time. He's older.
No, but you're ignoring the obvious.
Neil Hill.
No, Ed Connors.
Did Ed discover him?
I don't know if he discovered, but Ed contacted him. He was early on. Before anyone kind of knew who he was, and he was like, "Oh, you got a lot of muscle. You got to do the." I remember he made him do the Arnold that first year he turned pro too. He talked him into it. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, you should do the Arnold." He's like, because he even told me, he's like, yeah, Ed told me to do the Arnold. I was like, oh, I don't know, Ed, I haven't even done a pro show yet. He's like, oh, no, you got enough muscle. Ed's very good at spotting talent even before the talent has really developed.
Yeah. He's you're 100% right. Like,
guaranteed, he was the first person who called Jay Cutler, right, back in the day.
Let's see who. No, it was Lou Zwick.
Oh, Lou Zwick. Yeah, Lou was the early. That was when Lou was really on the ball with that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And Ed would pick out people who, like 4 years later, you would say in 3 years this guy's going to be good. So he was way early on things. If he was a stock picker, he'd be like A+.
Yeah. The funny thing is that even today, even though Ed doesn't own Gold's Gym anymore, even today he's still I'll get a couple young guys that'll contact me and I'll be working there with them, and they're like, yeah, Ed, I don't know if you know, this guy Ed Connors called me. I'm like, how did Ed find you? You haven't even done anything yet. He's like, I don't know. He said he saw me on Facebook or Instagram, and
no, he has
just knew it, but he was right. The guy was good. Like, I'm like, oh yeah.
Ed used to have like a hotline to Bob's house.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, Bob used to talk to Ed all the time because, like, I think.
Ed you told me that. Yeah. We talked about that. Bob Grushkin.
And
right.
Like, so and so, this guy I know, Bob, you should help him. He's out in Long Island. He's 22. He's in college.
Well, it was a lot harder back then, Chris, because it was by word of mouth because there was no internet. Nowadays, it's easy. Ed could browse Instagram all day long and find guys.
Yeah.
But back in the day, he had to actually do it the hard way. It was word of mouth.
Yeah,
there's a guy in the gym in Brooklyn, New York, in this little shithole gym, and he comes in here every night at 6:30 at night, and he's unbelievable. His name is Kai Green.
Yeah.
Ed knew about him. Probably when
Ed
he was
would also
13.
say, Ed would just speak like slow cadence, matter of factly, and say, Dave, there's a guy out in Long Island, and he's 18 now, but if he adds 50 pounds of muscle, he could probably be Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Like it's that easy. But sometimes you pick those people, and 6 years later they'd be like, "Oh, what happened to him? Oh yeah, he did win the nationals, and he's pro now."
Yeah.
Ed picked him out when he was 18.
Yeah. It's true. It's very true. A lot of top guys out there, you wouldn't even know it, but they have an Ed connection. And then you find out, like, they'll just casually mention it. Oh, yeah, this guy, Ed Connors. I said, oh, you know Ed? I should have known, you know. If it's a good-looking white guy, I should have known that Ed knew him, you know.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you've been following this. Actually, you sent me the story from CNBC where diabetics are making their own insulin?
Yeah, I thought,
It's a great story.
Yeah,
What's going on is that these insulin companies are charging so much money out there, which is disgusting, okay? And that a lot of people who don't have health insurance or don't have prescription plans necessarily, they can't afford their insulin. And I'm talking about I'm not talking about bodybuilders that want to get big. I'm talking about type 1 diabetics, you know, that need to take insulin. And what a lot of these guys do is they don't take the full dosage. They ration their insulin. And so they're running high blood sugars. And there was this one case, I don't know if you read the whole article, where this kid went into ketoacidosis and died because he wasn't taking his insulin. His mom was being interviewed, and she said that, you know, we couldn't afford it, and he wasn't taking it. And I kept telling him, take your insulin, because it was costing him, I think, $400 a month. And he just, you know, the kid couldn't afford all his bills. And so
it used to cost like $20 or something, right?
Yeah, well, I got teared up in my eye. I got to be honest with you. I was like, you know, I hear these things and I almost want to go buy the guy's insulin, you know, because I feel bad. And so this guy in California decided that, you know how like they have open code, like on the computers, you can get free software that people just put out there. They write it and they put it out there, and they're like, this is open code. Fuck Microsoft, fuck, you know, Apple. You guys can use this stuff for free. And there's a whole there was a whole movement back, you know, 15 years ago that did this, and it's still out there. And so this guy kind of took upon himself to kind of follow that in that venue, and he's creating his own generic insulin. They have a long-acting one out, and they're working on a fast-acting insulin, and they're going to put it out as a generic type insulin that, you know, for people who can't afford to pay, you know, the Eli Lilly for their Humulin, or, you know, whatever, Novo Nordisk, whoever makes all the ones.
They'll get it from him, or they'll get the recipe and make it in their house.
I think he's going to make it and sell it way cheaper. I think that was the. I don't think it's not like you can cook the stuff up in your kitchen. It's not like steroids.
Isn't it like patent infringement or something? We'll have to get.
I think that there's some kind of legal. Yeah, there might be some kind of legality that he's getting. I don't know how he's getting past that patent thing. If he's just putting it out there as a rebel, or if no one's bothered to do it, because I think what happens is after 8 years the patent runs out anyway. But then you have to have a company that wants to invest in it. A lot of companies won't do it because they don't feel they're gonna make enough money. Whatever this guy is doing is he's creating his own. I know what he's doing. He's creating his own insulin. So in other words, rather than make Humulin R, he's making something like Humulin R. It's not an exact replica where he's going to infringe on their patent.
Get Christian Duque or the Big Sexy on the line, their lawyers, to find out if you can circumvent the patent laws.
I was thinking that maybe Milos can go work with them and help develop the insulins, you know, so it killed two birds with one stone, right?
Yeah, he could he could come up with stuff.
We need the faster acting insulin. We the faster acting for the giant sets.
Yeah, insulin gum.
Insulin gum.
You know how they have like nicotine gum?
Yeah.
Insulin gum.
Yeah. Milos, they should just make an insulin patch. You know, I guess, you know what? I'm surprised Milos doesn't hook his guys up to the insulin pump, right? And just pump it into them all day long. just pump, and yet because with the pump you can push the button and you can dial up as much as you want. So Milos, you know, before they get into the gym, they would dial up 20 units. You know, while they're in the gym working out, just dial up another 20 units. You don't even have to do anything. You just push the button. Yeah. So I thought that was a crazy story. I hate to hear when people can't get the drugs that they need. You know, it's like hearing, you know, when they have you know, cancer, you know, or drugs to help people who have terminal diseases, and these people can't get the stem cell treatments or whatever these other treatments that they need are because they can't afford it. it sickens me that we have the greatest medical technology in the world in this country, and we also have the most expensive system that doesn't really equally serve every person who lives here, and that's kind of sad in a way.
Well, it's. I mean, I went in to get a prescription filled the other day with insurance. It just cost a fortune. I just called my friend on that. That was my. I couldn't come on the RxMuscle show with Lee Priest and do a rant. called my friend, who I'm sure is listening to the show, and told him, this is what I pay every month for health insurance, which is a fortune.
Me too. And
I still paid a fortune for the medicine.
Oh yeah, because they're like, oh, you didn't meet your deductible, or this isn't covered by it. God forbid you get a cream. You can get all the pills you want. You get a cream, you'll pay $500 for the cream. I'm like, cream? It's a fucking tube of cream. Are you guys kidding me?
Yeah.
Crazy. So
yeah.
But, it's we think we have it bad here, but you hear about these horror stories in Canada. Canada's got socialized medicine, so they don't pay for the medicine, but you can't get a freaking appointment with a doctor for fucking 6 months. I know guys that they have hernias, that need repair. They got to wait like a year before they can get approved and they can get it taken care of. So I don't know. We might be better off here paying for stuff.
Well,
that's all.
if I could get my groceries free, but I had to wait 6 months for them, I'd still wait for them.
Yeah, well, you might starve and die in the meantime.
I mean,
you can't
if
eat.
I could get, I don't know.
You got to have the food to eat, right? If you wait 6 months to get your food, yeah, it's free, but meanwhile you starve, and your kids are starving in the meantime.
I think people live longer in Canada, so what's that mean? I mean, if you're measuring Google life expectancy Canada versus U.S.
Well, we got more people here, so.
No, life expectancy, not total number of people.
I guess. No, I know, but I'm saying I think that there's.
Well, I mean, there would be a knock in their healthcare system if
I don't know if it's healthcare. I think it's healthier living up there because they don't have pollution in there. It's just a nicer lifestyle up there. Who knows? I don't know if there's any correlation between anything. It just seems like, I don't know. It shouldn't be. Look, when I went to the hospital and had my shoulder surgery done, it was like a ridiculous amount of money. Now, luckily I have insurance. It still cost me a couple grand, but what they charge for a day in the hospital is ludicrous. I mean, you can stay in the 7-star hotel in Dubai for less than that.
Yeah. Well, you can go to you can get the same operation. You can shop it out and go to Malaysia and get it for probably.
Well, I don't know if I would. I don't know if I wanted to. I think I'd rather pay the money and have the guy here in Tampa do it for me. This is shoulder replacement.
What do you think? There's a difference between the Mercedes that you buy in Malaysia and the one you buy in New York?
They don't sell the Mercedes I got in my shoulder. That's for sure. Inflation
in Malaysia.
The problem is it's the person building it. That's the problem. All the Mercedes are built by the same people, by Mercedes. They're not built by Joe, the car repair guy at the corner. I'd be too scared. You hear these horror stories about people going to Mexico for plastic surgery. Remember the old Dan DeShane story that he took his girlfriend there to get calf implants, and she wound up getting her legs amputated. Yeah, from infections.
Good. That's crazy. No, I never heard that.
Yeah, it's a terrible story. Horrible story. What happened? She lost her legs.
People still. Wow, that is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Who was it? Maybe I know.
I don't remember. You got to ask John Romano the girl's name, but she was a decent bodybuilder, I think. She went there to get calf implants, and something went wrong, and she got an infection. And
only Dan would like
I know.
He get calf implants
for his girlfriend. So there was an article that came out. Someone sent it to me. I don't think you sent me this one. It was one of my cronies. I'm looking at I feel like Blackman. I got to quote the journal it appeared in. Frontiers in Physiology. It basically examined.
Read it in his voice.
Did you read? This is what Blackman would do. Chris, did you read the latest article in Frontiers in Physiology about muscle memory?
No, what did it say? What did it say?
It was in the New York Times. I figured you read it. Yeah, it was. I read it 4 a.m. every time I would come into the office at MD. Did you read the latest on? And
like
of
you,
course I
like
never
you
did.
read it. What's the answer? Yes.
Well, you know what I used to. So what I started doing, Chris. I've told this story before. I have to always preface that so people don't think I'm losing my mind. What I would do is because I knew that he was always reading the New York Times every morning, and I knew he was doing it like 5 in the morning. What I would do is, he didn't know this, but on the internet, they got the story the night before, and I was always up late till like 3 in the morning anyway. So I would read the story at like 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning before I go to bed on the New York Times. So I'd scour the thing for anything scientific. And then what I would do is when I went to the office, he'd be like, "Oh, did you read the ad? Did you see the newest, latest research on blah, blah, blah?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah." And I would recite it. How do you know? Yeah. I said, "Steve, it's on the internet the night before." He goes, "It is? I get it first. I'm at 7-Eleven, 5 in the morning." Anyway. So that's... anyway, so to get back to the article, they basically, and I've talked about this mechanism before, but I guess they really verified it, that, the reason why a lot of people don't know what muscle memory is. We just know that, if you've been 280 pounds for a couple of years and you decide to stop working out, you lose the size. But then when you start working out again, it comes back like within 4 to 6 weeks, whereas it might have taken you 5 years to put that muscle on to begin with. And we call that muscle memory. And muscle memory is nothing more than, when you're training and you're weight training, you increase the size of your muscle fibers, but as the fibers get bigger, you add nuclei to these muscle, fibers or muscle filaments, so to speak. And the more nuclei you add, and the cells need these nuclei, because when the muscle cells get bigger, the nuclei help instruct the cell on how to repair itself and do all these great things. So you need more nuclei as the cell gets larger. When you stop working out and the actual cytoplasm or the majority of the cell shrinks, you still have those new nuclei that you've developed, whether it be from actual training itself, from hyperplasia from taking GH, or just steroids causing increase in size of the cells. All these new nuclei are still they're still sitting in urine cells. We still have more nuclei than we had before we ever weight trained. So if we go back to the gym, our muscles will just get bigger again because they have all this knowledge there waiting for all right, we know what to do. We have all this. We just got to get fed and we got to get a stimulus. So you go to the gym, you weight train, you increase your protein intake, and boom, you grow very fast, very rapidly. And that's why I tell people, I said, I'm not like bragging or anything like that, but I know I can put 30 pounds on if I wanted to, probably in 6 weeks, if I so set my mind to it. I'm not interested in doing that, but I know I can do it. Because think about how big I was for so long, that those nuclei are still there. And so it's an interesting mechanism because a lot of people didn't understand, how that worked. And it's just a matter of the nucleus, for those of you who don't know, is the component of the cell that contains all the DNA, the genes, everything that basically, it's the brain of the cell. And in muscle cells, they're unique cells. They're very long, and they contain multiple nuclei. They just don't have one brain. They have multiple brains. And as the cells get bigger, they need more and more brains, so to speak, to kind of work together to keep them, functional. Mm-hmm. And so it's very interesting. That's why guys like Levroni and Shawn Ray, they wouldn't train the whole off season, and they 16 weeks before a show, they'd start working out, and boom, they'd blow right back up. The problem is you're not going to make improvements if you just do that, because you're not going to get bigger than you were. You'll get back to where you left off, but you're not going to get any bigger than that. And so,
yeah, good point.
The mistake of guys like Shawn Ray, or maybe it wasn't a mistake because maybe he didn't think he needed to be bigger, but if guys like that would have trained all year round, they would have been bigger. Then they would have made improvements, because probably Shawn Ray competed at the same 202, 205 probably his whole career, right? I mean, I don't think he ever got bigger than that.
Yeah, same way.
And Levroni too. At some point, once he stopped once he stopped training in the off season, he basically would come into the Olympia looking great, or the Arnold, but he wasn't any bigger than he was the year before.
Very true.
I think that one year he trained when Dorian retired. I think everyone was really hitting it hard in the gym that year. That 98 year, from 97 to 98.
Yeah, he was big.
He was big that year. That was the biggest I had seen him in a long time.
He was big in 97 too.
Yeah, he was.
It was a lot of years.
He was a genetic freak. He just, he coasted a little bit toward the end of his career, which maybe gave him longevity, and not only in bodybuilding but in life. Yeah. If he would have gone nuts, who knows? He might not be here today. So I like when relevant research articles come out, because it kind of validates things we know already, but a lot of times it explains things for people who don't really understand how it works. There's no magic inside the muscle cell. It's genetic material. That's really what we're talking about.
Who coined that word, muscle memory? Joe Weider?
He'll probably take credit for it, but I don't know. It's a great. I love the word. I think it really typifies, what's going on there, or it explains it in a sense. And if you think about it, it really is muscle memory. We didn't realize that what a great expression that is, but it's the memory of the muscle cells, because the brains of the muscle cells are the nuclei. So it really is muscle memory. You know what the original theory was, and I taught this in my training class for many years, was the theory of fascial stretching. John Perla was a big proponent of that.
Oh, that it was all stretched out and could just refill up.
Right. In other words, if you stretch the connective tissue around the muscles that kind of held it confined, that was the impetus for the muscle to expand. And as a matter of fact, that's what John Perla spent many years, remember, violently stretching guys, right? In the gym, he would do these brutal stretching with them to stretch the fascia out so they help them grow better, which now that we find out it really didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Other than maybe make them a little more flexible. But that, I remember reading articles about that. I mean, in the magazines about Perlo's ridiculously intense stretching sessions, right?
Yeah.
He would also do massages, right, and try to break up the connective tissue, especially around the calves and the really dense muscles that had the dense connective tissue. I don't remember who was telling me, but they had gone down there and he had done that to them, and they were like they couldn't walk for like 2 days, something like that.
Oh, with the crazy deep massage or the
even my friend Dr. Derlin Castro, who's was doing ART back in the day, and he was doing fascial release and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, do my calves, because I would have done anything back in the 90s to make my calves grow, because my legs are so big.
Go to Mexico and get the calf implant.
Yeah, I didn't want to lose my legs. That wasn't acceptable. That wasn't an acceptable trade-off, so to speak.
Well, you could go to Canada, but you'd have to wait 3 years.
Yeah, it'd take me 3 years to get it. Yeah, exactly. The only guy I knew that was doing like crazy implants like that was Bruce Nadler. Remember Dr. Nadler?
Oh, yeah.
He was doing like calf implants. He was doing bicep implants and shoulder implants. He was doing crazy stuff like that. No other plastic surgeon would ever have done in a million years. I knew a guy, actually, I don't want to mention his name. He's not with us anymore, but he got shoulder implants, which looked ridiculous because they basically dropped down to his triceps. He got calf implants. I think he had pec implants too. Nothing really looked. The only ones that looked half decent were the calf implants, and they had to be super uncomfortable. It goes back to the Iron Rage, John Romano and Lee Priest and I did a couple weeks ago about butt implants. Like, that's got to be the worst implant of all, because you got to sit on those, right, all day long.
Yeah.
How uncomfortable is that got to be, right?
Yeah.
Sitting
on two.
Because they're not soft or anything like that, It's like sitting on a shelf, all day long. The one thing I remember when I was competing, you probably can, maybe confer this, but or confirm it, I should say. When I would get really lean, like down to the last couple weeks before a show, it would hurt to sit down on like anything hard. Like, you couldn't sit on a hard bench. There's no fat there. It's like the nerve endings were right there, right? Just being irritated by the fact that there was just no body fat cushioning or even fluid to cushion anything. That's how you know you're in shape, right?
Yeah, when you're there's nothing there.
When you can't even sit down and be comfortable.
Yeah, or as Cormier would say to you, what do you say about Remy? Most of the fat's gone, and your answer was?
What was his answer when I said, is most of the fat gone?
I can't remember.
Kind of.
He said most of the fat, and you said, Chris, shouldn't all of it be gone?
That was the problem. It wasn't all gone, right? Exactly. Look, everyone's got their own little things going on. I don't know, their own little sticks. So what do we? So we're closing in on the Arnold Classic. Obviously, we got a month to go. I'm sure we're going to hear some drama. Who do you think the first drama story will be from?
First drama story.
Because we really haven't heard anything. It's been pretty quiet,
I don't know.
There's
Yeah,
got to
it's
be some
been
drama coming out soon. I would think it would be from Cedric, but Cedric's kind of quiet. Usually his drama occurs when he gets to the show.
Yeah. No, the Arnold's not dramatic.
We haven't heard anything from the Oxygen Gym recently. It's been very quiet over there.
It's you hear a pin drop.
Well, they got two horses in the race, right? They got Brandon
no.
and they got Ruley, which both
Rowley.
guys should do really well.
Yep.
We haven't heard anything from. I haven't heard anything from Neil Hill about Bonex. I'm assuming he's probably right on the mark. You saw Sando, looks good. So
Yeah.
I haven't really heard anything. I gotta get Josh Lenardowitz on the show because he
Dark horse. That's the dark.
he's
horse.
the dark because we haven't really seen him. He took a whole year off last year, so
Well, I think the last time he took a year off, I can't remember, but he's the most dangerous.
I think so. Yeah, I think he's very dangerous. I haven't seen what he looked like, but I think he's dangerous.
No, he's the most dangerous because he's got a lot of muscle.
Yeah,
He's got height, and he's got width. He's wider than
True.
anyone in the show.
that's true.
And his condition is usually tremendous, and he's got muscle density and maturity, and I think mentally he's makes good decisions in terms of what shows he picks, and I don't think he's intimidated by anyone. That's someone to look out for.
Yeah, I agree. So I have on Tuesday I have Chris Dim on the show. He's doing the wheelchair Arnold. First time he's going to be competing in a wheelchair. Obviously he was a great IFBB pro bodybuilder back in the day. He got that dissected aorta, where his aorta basically exploded, almost died. Made a comeback after that. He had open heart surgery. They fixed it. Made a comeback. Did well. I think he placed top 5 at a show. I don't know if he qualified for the Olympia. I don't remember, but he might have. And then
that's right.
And then he had another surgery on the descending aorta because they said it was damaged as well. They didn't want it to explode. And he had 2 operations. The second one, he was paralyzed. And so he's been in a wheelchair since then. And he decided this year he wanted to compete in the wheelchair Arnold. So he got invited, and so he's going to be on that stage. So I want to find out what's going on with him. And we always check in with him maybe once a year and see how he's doing. Love the guy. He's got great energy. And so we're going to find out what's going on with Chris Dim. I also have Boston Lloyd contacted me. He wants to get on the show. He said he's got some bitching and complaining to do. He's been quiet lately, so he wanted to tell me some stuff. I said, I don't even want to know about it. Come on the show. You can tell me it on the show. He'll be on. And
Is that an omen?
What?
When you said Boston Lloyd, my phone cut out.
Oh.
Is that an omen or a good omen?
No, he said he called me. He said he wanted to be on the show. I said, all right. He had some stuff to vent. He goes, I can vent it. And I said, come on the show and vent it. I don't care. He's like, you want me to tell you what it is? I said, no. I'll ask you on the show. You can tell me. I don't even want to know what it is. I'm sure it'll be entertaining. And then I got... Remember you had mentioned to me, I think when we had Amin on the show, one of the guru talks that we did, or one of the Iron Debates we did, you were asking me about the guy he used to train, big black guy. His name's Rod Smith. Do you remember Rod Smith?
Rod Smith.
You're the one who told me this. Amin used to train this huge black guy down in Virginia. He was bigger than Don Long.
Was it me? I told you that? Or?
I'm pretty sure it was you. I'm almost positive.
Roger who told you?
No, you told me. You said to me, I remember, used to train this guy. He was like, could have been Mr. Olympia. He was down in, you couldn't remember the guy's name.
Oh, well, maybe that's why. What happened to the guy? So you're
I'm going to find out. He's coming. We're getting him on the show. He's making a comeback. Amin's training him. So I'm going to get the 2 of them on the show. Actually, there's a good story that there was a confrontation between Rod. This guy was huge back in the day, by the way, between Rod and SHAWN RHODEN, believe it or not. When SHAWN was only 18 years old. He was training in the same gym as all those guys, as Amin, Don Long, Rod Smith. And a young SHAWN RHODEN had a problem with Rod, and I think I'm going to get the story out of him. I haven't heard the story yet, but I heard that there was a run-in between the two of them.
A run-in.
Yeah, that there was a confrontation, and I don't think back in the day you didn't want to have any run-ins with this guy Rod. He was a tough dude. He was a big tough dude. Magnon was always raving about how great this guy could be if he would just put his head to it. You know, he'd be in the Olympia. You know, that's how high up everyone was on this guy. He had just great genetics. I'll send you a picture. I'm going to send you a picture. What?
Yeah, send me a picture. You got pictures of him now?
Yeah. No, I got pictures when he competed. You'll recognize him.
That's what I mean. Now when you're
Let me see if I can get him over to you before we close out the show. Tell me about what you're doing tomorrow while I'm looking for these pictures.
I am probably going to skip breakfast and sleep in late because we have to drive an hour to a seminar. I don't even know where we're driving to, and here we are doing the radio show at like 4 a.m. my time. Actually, it's probably, what time is it? Is it 4? I can't even. It's 4:30 in the morning. So I'm going to sleep in late till like 11. 4:30, 5:30, 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30, 10:30. I'm going to get 6 hours of sleep and go to the seminar.
When you travel, you always have the weirdest hours. So you don't sleep a lot when you're on the road.
No, I don't.
Keep talking.
No, I don't. I don't sleep a lot when I'm on the road.
Chris, when I interview people like during the week and their Skype cuts out, you know what I have to do? I have to talk until we get them back.
Oh. Well, that's what I'm trying to do.
You got to kill time. You got to just entertain the troops, so to speak. I just sent these pictures to you. I don't think they went through. That's weird.
Oh, maybe that's why the Skype cut out. No, they came. No, Big Rod and I are teaming up again.
The pictures didn't come through though. Damn it.
No, maybe that's why the Skype cut out.
Oh, maybe that might have been what it was.
Yeah.
Well, hold on, I'm gonna try one more time.
Hang up and send them to me.
No, I want you to see them because I want you to comment on them.
Oh yeah. Maybe you can email. I don't know. Email.
No,
them
I'm gonna text them to you. They're gonna come through. I try to be fancy. I try to do too many at one time. I'll send one.
Yeah, just do one. I can
do
tell.
one. Yeah, I'll do one.
Oh, here he is.
You remember that guy?
Vaguely.
He trained down with Don Long and all those guys, and he was just like the rebel of the group. And I don't think he just never, he was too distracted. I don't think he ever. We'll find out. I don't even know the story. I'm gonna get him on the show. We're gonna find out the story from him.
Yeah, you'll find out.
But he's got all the gossip, and he's willing to talk about it all from all the guys down in that area. There was a lot of good guys that came out of that area. Kamali, Don, who else? This guy Rod. Rhoden was like I said, he was a kid back then. He probably was like the young punky kid that they were like, go, kid, get off the machine. I'm sure that was the way they treated him. But there were a lot of good guys from that area. That was impressive. I remember. It was like a little stronghold. It was not a big area, but it was a lot of good guys came out of that area. I think it was because Amin had the growth hormone connection in there. He had the Eli Lilly connection out of that gym. You got to remember, back in the 90s, not everyone had access to growth hormone. It wasn't like everyone was on it like nowadays. If you didn't have a connection, you didn't know someone, you didn't get it. And most people didn't even know the guys were using GH back then, right? In the mid early 90s. Mm-hmm. I had a crazy doctor friend who used to get them. Yeah. He used to get the protropin kits, and they weren't as good as the Lilly kits because the amino acid sequence was off on that
extra, one. Right? It was one extra.
They worked, but they didn't work as good. And then when I started using the Lilly, I got a Lilly connection. The good thing about New York was there's so many. If you're looking there's so many shysters. If you're looking for black market stuff, it's available. You go to Virginia, not so much, but Amin had this connection at the National Institute of Health there, and that's where they were getting from the hospital there, the Children's Hospital, because they were doing research on it. And whenever they do research, there's always extras that somehow fall out the back door, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that was. So anyway, so I'm going to get Amin and Rod on the show. I think people are going to really like that interview. It should be entertaining because I'm sure he's going to tell some blockbuster stuff that a lot of people don't know about. I like to hear the old stories because you know what, it is relevant to the current stories because the guys today that are competing and that are the stars of today were the young kids of back then, and they all started someplace. You know, I tried to explain to this one guy once at a bodybuilding show. There was this guy Dave Jeffries, and he was competing in the show in Jersey. I was guest posing, and I was trying to explain to him backstage that he was the first real bodybuilder I ever ran into when I was going to college in Lancaster, Pennsylvania at Franklin and Marshall College. And I joined the Gold's Gym. They had just opened up, and he was the big bodybuilder in the gym. And I didn't know anything. And I would ask him a million questions. And he was nice. He was always nice. He showed, teaching. What a genetic freak, And I was trying to explain who I was to him. I was explaining the guys who were in the gym at the same time, and he couldn't make the connection because I was so big that there was no way that he could ever make that connection that I was that skinny guy. I'm sure.
Yeah. He couldn't place.
But I was there, and if he ever really did recognize me, he could tell people that story. Like, I remember when Dave Palumbo was in the gym, and he was a runner at Franklin and Marshall College, and he weighed 150 pounds. And I showed him at a squat. That would be a good story, right? You got him on a radio show to talk about that. That would be a fun story because no one really knows me, knows that side of me when I first started. Because we all started somewhere. We were all skinny kids, or fat kids, whatever. I don't know, like Evan Santapani's case, who started as inadequate and insecure, guys in the gym and didn't know what we were doing. And it's fun to hear those stories from people who actually remember back then, what was going on. So, all right, well, I know it's late. I know you got to get some sleep over there, and you got a whole week of seminars to do. If you run into any of our Heavy Muscle Radio fans, maybe get some quotations, get to take down some, get some pictures or something like that, and maybe you'll have some funny stories to tell us. So if anyone out there is listening who runs into Chris, tell him something entertaining so you give him some material for the radio show next week.
Yeah, for sure. Because I've already run into people lots of people today who said, tell Dave when you do the radio show, hello, and blah, blah, blah. I've been listening for 5 years or 10 years.
Right. Well, like I said, get some rest. We'll talk to you during the week, and we'll hear the whole rundown next week on Heavy Muscle Radio. For now, we're out of time. Until next week, remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone.